Today I want to show you some nighttime street photography from Tokyo that I've really been wanting to show you and discuss, but I haven't gotten around to yet. But today is the day. Back in May, towards the end of the month, I returned from Japan back to Austria, and since then, you've seen, I've been working on a backlog of videos that I filmed there. A couple more are coming, but then in about a month's time, the YouTube channel too will return to Austria. Apart from editing the videos, I've been working hard on catching up with some editing of my photography. You must know, these 3 months in Japan have been the most photographic months for me, maybe ever. You know, it was this wonderful balance of shooting so many photos, but with intention, not overshooting. In Japan, however, I wanted to spend more time shooting and just being present, therefore I didn't edit too much during that time. And so that has led to me now still editing photos that I shot back in March. In today's video specifically, I'm going to show you some nighttime street photography from 2 evenings spent with a couple friends in Shinjuku, Tokyo, and I just want to sit down and discuss the results with you. Alright, so as we have often done before, I have my laptop here with a little PDF full of the photos that I selected for this video. It's a little mixture actually of both digital shots that I got with my trusty little Lumix GX80 and a couple of film shots, but I think it's literally just 3 shots that I got on film. We're starting off with one of my favorite shots actually that I got in March that I've been wanting to show you for ages, but I just never found the chance actually. And that's why I thought I'd make this video. So we were exploring Shinjuku, and we were in this very famous little street in Shinjuku. If you've been to Tokyo, you will definitely know it, the Omoide Yokocho, which is a little over-popular for photography, so I wasn't really keen on shooting there too much, but we did pass it, and so I just got a shot of somebody passing me, and it turned out so good. It doesn't really matter that it's in that location, because the location is completely blurry, as you can see. But what I love in this shot is, I don't know how it worked out, but that the lighting is just perfectly on the subject's face. The person's not really looking back at me, but we can see half of the person's face, which just gives the subject so much life and character somehow. It's more than just the back of somebody's head. And I just love the blurry lights and how the subject seems to be more or less sharp. It's not perfect, but it was sort of a panning shot that I was doing as the person was passing me. And I just really like how selective the lighting seems to go from the left to the right in this sort of, I don't know, what's that? And then just the top left corner and bottom right corner just completely fade into black darkness. I think it's a really epic shot, so I wanted to start off the video with that. Then on the next slide, I have a pair, 2 photos that in this time I shot on film, and here I still had a couple shots of Kodak Gold left in my Pentax. And I know, Kodak Gold in these lighting situations is questionable, but you have to know Shinjuku is very bright. There are so many lights everywhere, so that shooting at night with ISO 200 film is actually quite possible, even though, as you can see, I was very low with my shutter speed, but in a way that you can still sort of practice panning shots. And so that is what I was trying here. On the left side, I was panning with this group that was about to pass me. And while the photo is very blurry, I really love the blurriness of it because it's this perfect balance sort of that you can still totally see the subjects and what I was trying to photograph, and everything around them is sort of whizzing by. So exactly what a panning shot is supposed to do, and I think it's just on the verge of becoming too much, but it's still okay. And I think the colors turned out fantastic. The lighting looks really good. I don't know where this light is coming from that is shining on the 3 subjects, but they are perfectly lit so that you know instantly, yep, these are the subjects of this photo. Maybe it's because of their bright clothing, but also the faces are very bright. I don't know where that light is coming from, as if there was that light just outside of frame or on the top. I don't really know. And then on the right photo, this is a bit of an extremely blurry photo, but what I found very interesting here is you can see on the left side, that is actually a little lorry actually that was just passing through this small street. And on the right side, that is actually a restaurant where a lot of people were eating. And I just found it interesting how tight this street was, that there are vehicles passing just less than a meter from the people eating and nobody seems to care. They were like, oh, there's no top. And so what I did was that I walked past the restaurant and then noticed that that vehicle was about to pass, and so I turned around and tried to just pan with the vehicle. I think the person on the right could be a little sharper. It's still very noticeable that this is a human. It's not too blurry in that sense, but I think it would be nice just to have it a bit less blurry so that you can see the facial expression a bit more. But I thought I'd still show this as sort of part of this series that I was doing that evening. Then on the next slide, I have two photos which are basically the same shot, just with a different focus. And I still can't decide which I prefer. It's actually a very, very basic shot, especially when you're in Japan and end up buying one of those transparent umbrellas. You start shooting through them, at least I did, because I really liked the texture that was created. And so on the right photo, you can see I was photographing some taxis and other cars, and the beautiful contrast that the lights are having, because the left car has these very warm lamps and the right car very cool, and so that just made for some nice color contrast. And so it's a bit of an abstract photo, just of some lights, very impressionistic I suppose, because you can't really see much, but you can sort of make out what is going on. And because of the reflections on the ground, you can make out that this was a rainy day and it was very wet, hence I had the umbrella. However, in the left photo, I had the focus on the raindrops of the umbrella, and I kind of like that as well. The lights are all blurry now. I kind of like the in-focus water drops, but that's kind of so basic that I kind of don't feel good about it. But I guess that's just me, I don't know. You can tell me which you think is better. I thought I'd just show you both. Then continuing here in Kabukicho, which is a part of Shinjuku, the sort of busiest of busy areas in Shinjuku, I'd say. And on the left is another photo on Kodak Gold, which I am so impressed by how good it looks. Maybe the last shot on that roll that I still had. And I saw these two people and I was just in awe of the backlight that they were receiving from all the ads that you can see at the back. And so I wanted to photograph them with all the ads in the background, and I think it just worked out so well. The ads are not blown out, but you can still see the subjects very clearly. The dynamic range just worked out here really well somehow. I'm really surprised how good this looks. And then also considering that this is ISO 200, I'm impressed. And then on the right side, you can see I was trying my panning shots again, and this one worked out quite nicely, I think. I was aiming to photograph the two workers, as you can see, as they are passing, and they turned out pretty sharp, while in the background, everything is just whizzing away, which I think works out quite nicely. I'm a bit split, though, about the person on the left, because there are two people coming into frame on the left, with the right person being completely in frame. And I'm not sure, is it distracting, or is it kind of cool to have somebody else in frame as well? I'm not sure, because I think it sort of makes the photo more interesting, but at the same time it could be distracting. I'm just quite split on that still. But I thought I'd show you this photo because I think the panning shot in general was actually a success here. Then next, let's continue with this slide, which only features one photo, which also is a square photo, which I don't do much, but I do like it when I find a photo that I can crop in a square format, because it's such an uncommon format. It's not really that uncommon, but there are not that many people who work with it, and it's sort of challenging. But here, I thought it really works out. So this is a shot from the Lumix. So originally, the sensor will photograph 4x3, I think. Yeah, 4x3 photos. This is just cropped away the sides a little bit, and I really like the action that is going on here. So the focus of the shots is actually on the person in the foreground on their phone, and these two I think belong together. They were skaters who were just practicing some tricks on these benches, no, not benches, but what do you call those? You can see what I mean. And I just really liked the environment, because this is, again, a very touristy area just in the middle of Shinjuku, where a bunch of locals run around because there's all sorts of stuff to do here, but also the tourists are always here because this is one of the sort of busiest areas of Tokyo and everybody wants to see that. And what I found so interesting is that they're just randomly skating here, because this is nowhere close to a skate park. This is just very random. But apparently this thing is nice to practice some tricks, and so I tried to get some shots, and I think this one turned out so cool because I've got the guy in the background doing the trick, being very much in that motion, and then this person in the foreground just, I don't know, taking a rest. And I think the sort of dynamic of those two also in the composition being connected by the bench just works out very nicely. And then the background, of course, is just unique and epic in a way. It's just Shinjuku. You can immediately see that this is in Shinjuku, which I think makes the shot special. So I'm really, really happy with this one. Then on the next slide... What? Huh? What the... Where are my... Oh, whoa. I guess that's the end then. All of my photos are gone. Just kidding, everything's fine. However, if you do ever lose your data or mistakenly format an SD card or something like that, then today's sponsor can help you out. Wondershare's Recoverit is a software that can, as the name suggests, recover lost data. It has this easy interface that shows you all the features you can use, and you simply select the driver you need to scan and let Recoverit dive deep into the depths of that data and find your lost files. With their new version 12 update, they've improved the raw file scanning capabilities, which is great for us photographers, and they also expanded the types of videos you can recover, now also including surveillance footage. I tried it out with an old USB stick of mine and was blown away by all the things Recoverit found. It is crazy, it found files from years ago and even files I don't even remember having. Recoverit doesn't only recover though, it can also help you with damaged files and repair them. It's really easy and honestly quite fun, and you can try it out for free with their free trial, so if you want to see for yourself, go check out the link in the description. Big shout out to Wondershare for supporting me so that I can sustainably do my work here, so thank you and please do check them out. Then here's another slide with two photos, and I think it's quite obvious why I paired these two, because of the red jacket. So to be completely honest, the right photo, that guy actually wasn't wearing a red jacket, it was actually more orange, but in the photo, in the editing process I then sort of changed it to more of a reddish hue because that made the person stand out a bit more. And as you can see, this is just me practicing more panning shots. I was actually really low angle here because I liked the idea of trying that with all the high buildings. I thought it'd be cool to try to go low angle and see what kind of perspectives I can find there, and just this person randomly passed me and I took the chance. Got the photo. It's not great, but it's some good practice. It's not a bad result, I think. It's not completely throwaway. It's not something that I'd consider really good, but I thought that's also very cool to show that this is like one of the many attempts that I was doing. And the left photo is just the same. Actually, it's just another attempt, and I think it's not bad. I really like how much movement there is in the photo, and the subject is barely sharp, barely visible, but really stands out thanks to the color red. And both of these are sort of mediocre tries. I think they kind of worked out, didn't really, but I really like them in this series of photos that I'm showing you today as sort of a photo to show you the progress that I was making in these 2 evenings. Then on the next slide, let's take a break from blurry panning shots, and this is a perfectly still and sharp photo of the bars in Golden Gai. If you have been a tourist in Tokyo, you might have come across Golden Gai, which is just a bunch of tiny little alleys that have a lot of bars. And I just walked past here and really liked the lighting on these 2 people. And I just thought it was sort of a cinematic kind of scene. I just thought the lighting naturally looks really cool in here. And so I just quickly snapped this shot and I really like it. I think it's a cool scene. Of course, I'm in love with the subframing, as always. And I just really like the atmosphere and the lamps. We have 2 lamps visible in this frame. And I don't know from where this cooler light is coming that you can see, especially on the person in the foreground that is reflected off of sort of this area of their head. I don't know where that light is coming from, but it looks fantastic, and I think it just adds to a lot of color contrast. Also, the blue shirt adds to a sense of color contrast, which I think are just different little things that made this thing work out better than I was expecting. Then, continuing this series of photos with more sort of restaurants and bars, here are 2 photos from, I think both of these are restaurants. So in the left photo, you can see something that is quite common in Japan. I don't really know why they do it. They have these plastic curtains outside of many restaurants, maybe to keep out or in the smell. I'm not sure. But basically, this person was sitting so close to the outside that they were touching the curtain, and I just thought it was a very interesting scene to have this person's back. and the curtain, especially that white thing of the curtain, just take on the shape of that person. And because of the reflective material, the lighting is also quite interesting, I find. So it was just an interesting scene. You can see we're playing with a lot of color contrast here again, with the left being rather warm and the right being quite cold. I think it was interesting. It's not a really good shot, but I think it's a nice addition to this series of photos that shows what an evening in Shinjuku can look like. On the right, I was trying to do something a little bit more abstract again, because there was, I can't remember if it was just a very fogged up window or if it was one of these curtains, but I think it was probably just the window that was a bit, foggy, and I just got quite close to it and shot through it. And I just really like how the diffused look turned out here, and you can sort of see everything, but it's a bit dreamlike in a way that you can barely see things. You can't really see the faces properly, but you can see what is going on. And I think it's just a cool scene in general of the two cooks in the middle busy cooking, guy in the left bottom corner just on their phone waiting for their food, I suppose. I think it was an interesting scene. Also the top lights at the top look really cool. Then it's time to move out of the little alleys with restaurants and bars and come back to the main station of Shinjuku. And you have to know that Shinjuku station is huge, and just to walk around the whole place once will take, I don't know, 20 minutes. And this is, I think it was on the west side, at the west exit basically, and it was a rainy evening. Everybody was running around with umbrellas, which always makes for an interesting scene, I find. Umbrellas in general are such funny objects, I find, because I can't really describe it. I just think it's funny how we people have designed this thing that we hold so that there's a little roof on top of us just so that we don't get wet, even though water is not something that can really damage us. Of course, in the worst situation, it could kill you, but at the same time, it's the thing that keeps us alive. But here, it's something we just don't want to come in contact with. I just think the dynamics of water and umbrellas and people is just kind of interesting and funny. And so every time when it's raining and a lot of people are running around with umbrellas, I find this to be an interesting subject. Also, simply because it looks cool, and especially in Japan, I love these transparent umbrellas. I really wanted to bring one home, but it was too big for the suitcase, so I had to leave it in Japan. What I really like here is how the framing worked out. So you have to know this was shot digitally, and that was a great advantage in this case, because I think this was the last of maybe 10 attempts to get this photo, because as you can see, it's just pure chaos. Well, not chaos, but on the right you had a bunch of people walking that way, and I was on the left walking this way, and I had spotted this person that is right in the center of the frame now as sort of my subject that I wanted to get, and this is the version that I like the most. So what I really like here is how there's just so much buzzing energy and so much busyness going on in the whole frame, but then in the center there is clearly that one person where oh, this photo is aimed to photograph this person, and also just the POV character of this photo, because it clearly looks like your own perspective if you'd be walking there. And I purposely included my own umbrella at the top of the frame. And here too, I just love how the light just reflects through the umbrella with all the water and all the diffusion. And also I think my lens was probably a little wet, and so there's a lot of natural diffusion from that here as well. This was not shot with a Pro Mist filter or anything. I think it was just some water drops on my lens. So that light on the right, for example, has this beautiful diffusion effect on it, which I think is just really cool. So that's why I thought I'd want to include this photo in this series, because I think it's one of the better ones I got that evening. Then next here is another photo that I am very fond of. So you might remember back in March when I was just starting to dabble in street photography, I was very fixated on shooting people from behind because I was just starting out. And as you know, I later just practiced coming from the front a bit more, but here I was still photographing a lot of people from behind. But in this case, I think it still worked out wonderfully for two reasons, basically. So I spotted this person because of the green hair, which stood out to me, and I thought, oh, that's some cool looking hair that I'd like to photograph. And so I was framing up this shot. I had the camera quite high up so that we could see Shinjuku cityscape in the background. And then you can see what happened. The person just decided to scratch their head, and they had nails in the same color as the hair, which I just thought was perfect. And so I got this shot, and I think it's so cool because it features this very natural human behavior of scratching the head, and it almost makes a natural pose. And so that's what I really, really like about this shot. I think it's really cool. Here I have two photos that I thought go quite nicely together as a pair, because this is similar to one of the photos I showed you before, one of the more abstract photos that I got of the rainy weather. So on the left side, if you've ever been to Tokyo, you will immediately recognize these buildings, especially the right one, which is just quite unique. As you can see, I had some raindrops on my lens, and I just love how this turned out. Even though you can barely see anything, it's really dark, you can just barely see the buildings. Obviously, I can't really bring them out much more because there was just no light up there. They were completely dark. But for some reason, there were these two really bright lights somewhere, in this case at the bottom of the frame, and those created these huge flares because of the water drops on my lens. And so it makes this mixture of sort of a basic shot just looking at these buildings, but then also abstracting it and making it textured. And so I kind of like it. And then on the right side, I mean, it's kind of obvious why I got this photo. I just thought there's so much beautiful red color here, and the way it reflected on the wet ground was cool. And then I thought, how about I add my umbrella to diffuse the whole scene? And this now makes for quite an abstract scene where you can still recognize what is being shown, but at the same time, it is very abstracted in a way that you can't really see what is going on. And it's more about the shapes and the colors and textures of the photo, which I really like. And then here is the last photo I would like to show you, which is similar to the one of the person with the green hair. Again, just someone from behind. And again, I got the photo because I just thought this person was very interesting. The first thing that caught me, obviously, I think, were the spiky hair. I mean, the spiky hairstyle was just fantastic. And something that I only noticed after the fact of shooting this photo and later when editing is that this person, I don't know, maybe this, I'm guessing this was on purpose, is that their jacket and their hair just, it works together perfectly. The colors are the same, and also the jacket itself also has this spiky design in a way. And so I think this is just such a well thought out outfit, I guess, with the hair. It just was really cool, and so I felt inclined to shoot this photo from the back. Just as a bonus, something I really like is the huge transparent umbrella this person was holding that diffuses the background a little bit and just adds the little bit of texture that adds to the interest of the photo. I think it makes the photo more interesting that there's this huge ball in the composition. I think it just puts more emphasis and focus onto the subject. Even though it's another photo from the back, I think this one actually did work out very nicely. And yeah, that was the last photo. That summarizes the 2 evenings I spent in Shinjuku. And this was more or less the beginning of me dabbling in street photography, and I was going through Lightroom, looking through a couple of photos that I had from March, and was thinking, hey, there are some good things here actually that I could show. So you must know that this is a selection of maybe about 100 photos from some time about beginning and middle of March. And these are some of the better photos that I thought I'd like to share on the channel, because I still just have so many photos from Japan that I want to share, and this is one iteration of me sharing these photos. So I hope you enjoyed going through these and discussing these with me. If you have any thoughts to add to what I have already said, I'd be very curious to know what you think. Any thoughts that you have, please do share in the comments. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I shall see you again soon. Until then, goodbye.
Just